Mic check. Yeah. Mic check 1 2. You know how we do. IMHO. Yo. Yeah. The truth is, the youth is the future. Need to show them different, not what we used to. Gotta come together, change for the better. Better cheddar, put you through the shredder, only if you live. Felt the pressure, ancestors gave their life for us to make it right, not for giving up the fight. Shining light so bright if we all unite. The time, right time now for new heights. Mrs. Maxine Robinson in charge, Lord. Put the sir on the front, better red door. I just verbalize the truth, then I kick it fluid. Or what these two trying to do, bring us to a unit. Power in this speech, gotta learn before you teach. If each one reach one, better off would be. Tune in, nigga, change, gotta do it. Mrs. Maxine Robinson is Sir Charles Lord, y'all. Yeah. It's in my humble opinion. Yeah. It's in my humble opinion. Shit.
Charlottesville, what time is it? 3 p.m. and it's time for In My Humble Opinion. Maxilia Robinson.
Sir Charles.
And we are here. This is In My Humble Opinion. Thanks for our loyal listeners. Thank you for those that are just tuning in. Tell somebody. Call them up and let them know In My Humble Opinion is on. How you doing, sir?
That's right. Hey, beautiful, beautiful Seaville, Central Virginia, and worldwide. IMHO 101 Jams.
That's right.
On their social media. Any social media that you follow, and WVAI, 101jams.com, TuneIn app.
All the above.
We're all
that's
over.
Right.
Well, that's about it. I think that we got to shout out our peoples, all the love and support that we get from the listeners and our colleagues up here at WVAI, the Mountain Dew Studios.
Yes.
Who we got? We got Rise and Grind in the morning. We got DJ Almighty on the mixes. We have Chris Newman show.
That's right.
By my man V.A. Doe.
Hilarious.
And then you mellow it out after the kids go to bed with that quiet storm.
And then who do we got on Saturday morning? So we got the Throne Room.
That's right.
Right?
Remy.
What's that? Live with 4 or 5.
That's right.
A trip.
The Sunday morning lineup, before you get to In My Humble Opinion, you got my man Clee.
That's right.
Mellowing it out on the Soul Lounge.
Don't want to forget Clee.
And before him, first thing in the morning to get your mind right, get you up ready for church before you do, you got my man Chucky Praise with that. I'm sorry, Chucky Hayes with that Total Praise.
That's right. And then you got In My Humble Opinion at 3, which you're tuning into right now. So that means you're in the right place, okay?
And then I like how DJ Almighty follows us up in Sunday evenings now. If y'all haven't been hearing, he does the old school mix on Sunday evenings at 6 o'clock now. So, hey, WVAI 101 Jams, you know how we do.
Don't think that people should step away from the protest. I think that it's kind of, I guess if you could call it like ground zero, it's where the action starts. To make that movement towards change. So I think that a week or so ago we had Razor on, and he said in terms of people losing their lives in this whole ordeal of police brutality, he said, unfortunately, some people have to die. And in this particular situation, whatever is deterring people from protesting, being arrested or being handled aggressively or whatnot, unfortunately, some people have to be arrested. It has to run the course that it needs to run in order to create change.
It's hard, but it's true.
Easy. Change isn't easy. So you can't expect to walk out there with a slice of pie and make everything okay. No, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be tough, and you're going to be subjected to some things that aren't so comfortable and you may not want to be. But in order to bring about the change that you claim you want, then you have to be willing to go through what it takes to go through, which is, the people of the civil rights era and Martin and all that rallied around him. You have to, I think in these times, you can get a better appreciation for what those people did, right? Because you understand that a little bit better that it wasn't easy, going through what they went through. And they went through much harsher things, when they protested, dogs and fire hoses and, being billy clubs and different things like that. But you get a new appreciation for what they went through in order to bring about their change. And, if they were willing to go through it so that me, and the third can have a better life, then We ought to be willing to give of ourselves so that our children and our children's children are better to, can have a better life. But I certainly don't think that now is the time to say, more than what I bargained for, let me step away from this. I don't think that it's time for that. And I think that, that's a tactic. That's what people want you to think and to feel is, handle it a certain way. And a lot of people will turn away simply because of that. But, it's not. This struggle isn't for the faint in heart. You know what I mean? You have to be willing. You have to be sold out for the cause in order to deal with what may come along with it. But
because I hear you stating casualties. There's different levels of casualty. A lot of people think casualties of war is only death, but sometimes you got to die to different things.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that takes a level of commitment. Which we've talked about. In order for us to change this thing, there's things we got to commit to. And I don't want to hear people talking about that we're just here talking and they're hearing a lot of talk all over the place, because there's action. There's solution-based action planning going on, guarantee it. And I know that you've seen it, and there's a lot of people probably just ignored it. But because we don't want to commit, that's the hardest part. We got to commit to being a casualty to some things. Meaning, maybe you got to stop. Because if we're talking about, the boycotting piece, maybe that means you can't buy that certain brand anymore that you want to buy because the owner of that company supports certain politics that's hurting you and your community. Those are the kind of commitments that we got to deal with straight up. You know what I mean? Because you may remember, I remember like how Hilfiger and then the alcohol brand Cristal, like both of those owners came out and made some racial comments, some racist comments.
Well, let me tell you what I remember. I remember Jay-Z's lyrics talking about, I used to drink Cristal,
right.
but racist. That's what I...
there you go.
That's where my literature came from.
So, but here's the thing though, because that got glamorized, right? But there's a lot of things, there's a lot of smaller, low-key things that we need to start glamorizing, to be able to draw attention to them and say, hey, this is something we got to change. But that's the thing though. It's like, unfortunately, there's always going to be casualties on different levels. We got to commit to the sacrifice. That's the action. When somebody says, what are we going to do? That's number one right there. Are you and your family self-sustainable?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, of course, that branches out into us as, as a community. And then, of course, widespread as a nation. Like, are we doing sustainable things, to carry on? Yes, change is hard. And yes, that casualty does then ramp up to when there's resistance, there's going to be people hurt and, unfortunately, people losing lives. I mean, that's part of change when you're going up against a force that doesn't want that change. But here's the thing, though. The only reason it has to be those casualties of life at times is because you are doing it for their well-being. Either lives are going to get lost while that change is coming to fruition, or lives is going to keep continuing to get being lost, every month.
Right.
Every month you're going to see a new news story. So either way, there's going to be casualties from something. So we have to make the commitment on what are we going to sacrifice for our children to have, and matter of fact, not even children, for us to be better off. I heard the statement about it's hard to tell somebody with a master and a doctorate, like that you gotta like a sacrifice of things, like you got to put your job on the line, in order for the nation to heal, like in order for this child to have the best future that they can have, like you may have to sacrifice some of the things that you worked very hard for. And you can imagine that could be a hard choice to make.
And that's what goes back to what I was saying about this whole unity thing. We're in a world where it's structured where you look out for number one. And so if I have that master's or that doctorate and I'm making however much per year and things like that, you want me to put all that to the side in order to help your cause, that may not necessarily be affecting me. That's why I said it's going to be tough for a lot of people to make that decision, and a lot of people, they don't justify what may be happening in and around the world, especially when they're not directly affected by it. Then it's not so bad, or it's over there, or it's slowed down, or different.
Until it hits their front door.
He had a gun or something like that, so.
Yep, until it's their front door, just like we saw with like the Sandy Hook shooting, or how like certain drugs used to be confined to certain demographic of kids. But then when you see other kids from other neighborhoods starting to get their hands on the same thing and being affected by the same thing, then we're having meetings. Then everybody's coming together trying to figure out like how are we going to fix this problem. So that's always how it is. But then when it comes to us as a people, though, I think of that term "new slaves." That term "new slaves" because what you just said, Max, about the if the person is sort of well-to-do, sees that things aren't quite right, but they're too comfortable to do things about it. That's new slave. Like doesn't that remind you of the house Negro versus the field Negro?
I follow you. I got you.
It's like, oh, master take care of me. I don't know what y'all talking about. But they talking about, in my humble opinion, I'm up in the house. I feel good up in here. So hey. So if the shoe fits.
Right. We answered the Ask Max and then some more.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
101 Jams, In My Humble Opinion. Charles Lewis, Maxilia Robinson. And y'all know what time it is. Sorry, not sorry. It's a segment that we like to do where we just... Sometimes you just gotta tell it like it is, Mac. You know what I'm saying? And got somebody that's gonna tell it. Sometimes just regardless of who may get offended, sometimes you just gotta say, sorry, not sorry, boo. You need to hear it. And y'all know, for those questions and comments and those ideas for the show, IMHO 101 Jams on Gmail and social media. Hit us up at the station from time to time, 422-9101. We like coming in and getting those messages and being like, somebody call for y'all. Sometimes it's good news, sometimes it's bad news. But we got to tell it like it is. We got to be the voice of the community. So sorry, not sorry. And so I thought during this time in Charlottesville where our people are at attention, who better than Seville's own Tanesha Hudson? We had to bring her back in today. And Tanesha, how are you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling great. Thank you guys for having me come back. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime, your family, you know that. And so we, we're just a few days removed from the recent escalation that we had downtown Charlottesville, then it started spreading across. So kind of just bring us up to date, before we dive into it, some things that has developed, in our community. What you been up to?
So, it's sorry, not sorry, right?
That's right. Let it up.
All right. Well, I'm going to start off and say that I'm not sorry about blaming the Charlottesville Police Department. I'm not sorry about blaming the Virginia State Police. I'm not sorry about blaming our city manager and our city government. And I'm not sorry about putting this bloodshed on Charlottesville. And I'm not sorry that the reality of Charlottesville has truly came out. Like, this is what it is. This is what we've been complaining about. This is what we've been fighting for. This is what we been going to those meetings, standing up, speaking, telling them how we feel, telling them how we feel left out, telling them how we feel we're not getting adequate and equal treatment. And see, now everybody want to open their eyes. I'm not sorry that they learned too late. Because, see, it's kind of too late for some of them. It's not too late for us to come together to change.
Right.
But it's too late because we got the wrong people in office that still don't believe that this is a problem. That's why it ended up being where it was at Saturday.
Right. So let me ask you, so when you say this is Charlottesville, are you speaking from the racism piece, the discrimination piece? Because, a lot of people are saying that the problem that we had in July and the problem that we had on A12 was that those were outsiders. Like, so how do you compare the outsiders to what's been here historically?
So let me break it down for you. I'm gonna break it down in baby food for the show.
Yeah, feed me.
For 101.3. In my humble opinion. So the issue with Charlottesville is this. We don't have knowledge of self. So the black community, you don't know that Charlottesville schools weren't integrated until 1959 when Brown versus the Board of Education was 1954. You don't know that Garwin DeBerry didn't make Lane football team because they had enough blacks already. We don't know that Burley Bears had an undefeated football team in 1956, I believe, undefeated team, and they had more white people coming to watch them at the time because they wanted to know, why were these black guys so great? Why are they so good? Why did they win a championship? We don't know that they made Burley a middle school, turned it into a middle school in 1974 when Charlottesville High School was built. We don't know about the racial riots that went on between Belmont and Hardy Drive when the blacks were fighting the white boys of Belmont. We don't know that Vinegar Hill was stolen, a stolen legacy that's now condos for the rich. We don't know that Frankie Allen was one of the first black basketball players at Lane High School who then went on to play college ball, who coached college ball, left Charlottesville and never came back. We don't know about all the history of the black African-American churches. I mean, yeah, we know Mount Zion was the first African-American church, but you have other churches that were built right in the core of the hood, like Pilgrim Baptist Church by Reverend Johnson, built 1 year after segregation in 1965, and he went on to preach 47 years. We don't know that Reverend Johnson, not only was he a preacher, that he was a strong advocate of African-American people, men and women. He would sit in court every single week to just be there as moral support to somebody. See, these are historical facts that we don't know about Charlottesville. So Charlottesville, I'm not sorry that we saw what we saw. That was a replay of Jim Crow, and that was something that we had to experience in order for the truth come out, for the truth to come out. And I'm sorry that lives were lost. But when you look back over civil rights, guess what? We lost Malcolm X. We lost Medgar Evers. We lost Dr. King. We lost 4 little girls in a Birmingham church bombing. Babies that never even got the chance to see their 13th birthday. So I'm not sorry that we're going through this. This is the harsh reality of Charlottesville, and now it's time to actually fix it. Stop having discussions, stop sitting down in these meetings, and let's hit the ground running and make some changes.
Preach, preacher. So the education piece, for those who didn't know that, right? So how do we start informing our kids? Because I don't think that we can expect Albemarle County Public Schools or Charlottesville City Public Schools to do it. So how, as a community, can we start driving that point home to where our kids are growing up with that self-respect for our rich heritage and history here?
Actually, Charlottesville City Schools, Albemarle County Public Schools, all of these school systems in this area, we have to go and pound down these school board meetings. Because I don't know about y'all, but see, history been whitewashed too much. We learn so much about European history that we don't know anything about ourselves. So our entire legacy, you know, all the way down to UVA being built off the backs of slaves, we don't know enough about ourselves. It's been stolen. It's been taken from us. And if we can have a whole full museum of all types of facts, why can't we have equality in education? See, it's time to rewrite the history books, and that's my next mission, is we gonna get these history books rewritten. We gonna get this curriculum in school rewritten, because it's time you teach us about ourselves, and that you stop diminishing our young black men when they're leaving 6th grade and saying that 1 out of 3 of them are going to end up incarcerated. It's time we got to dead all these legacies. We finally got to make these changes, because if we don't, and if we don't demand them right now, when we already know mass incarceration and just regular natural inequalities that we face, from the Alton Sterlings to the Philando Castiles to the Sandra Blands to the Tamir Rice to the Trayvon Martins, if we don't demand it now, that we're actually seeing this stuff, We're never going to get there. Because, see, the crimes that they're doing to us are not new.
Not new.
The cameras are new. The crime's not new, just the cameras are new. So we know that this has always been in place.
Yeah.
And so now we have to demand change. I think we're in a position we have to demand it.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that white people should be involved in us making that movement? Because we've talked to some people who said they should not be involved.
Oh, absolutely. And anybody saying that they shouldn't be involved, they have no knowledge of history. And I say that to say this. The civil rights would have never progressed if it wasn't for white people that was totally against the mistreatment of blacks. The Underground Railroad would have never progressed if it wasn't for white people hiding them in their homes. So we all have to work together. It's a we effort. It ain't us and we. It's us and them or white and black. It's all of us. Because see, we're all affected. And I say that to say this. It's not really color based to a certain degree. It's rich or poor. Because, see, white people go to jail, too, if they're poor and they don't have money. It's a rich or poor status. Now, black people are given the bad end of the stick on the judicial side of it. Because, see, when we were getting, our people were getting in trouble for drug charges or, substance abuse, being addicted to drugs, it was a crime. So we went to jail, and we went to jail for a long time. And now that those same problems are knocking on the door, and I'm not going to just say on white people door, because, see, it's been in white areas, just low-income white areas. But now that it's in the suburbs, and the rich kids, and the private schools, and the boarding schools, now it's a mental health issue. And so now it's, let's slap them on the wrist. But you gave my uncle or dad or cousin or brother, you gave him 25 years to life.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are speaking to local activist Tanesha Hudson. Tanesha, we're going to keep you here as long as you want to be here, by the way. So you can just push the stop button whenever you're ready. But I totally agree with you that right now is another opportune time. That what gives me reservations is that we've had what we thought were other opportune times. But I'm glad to hear you say that the vibe that you're getting as well is that this could be a great awakening for us not to fall asleep again and not fall back into contentment. Because we too up here, we've been getting emails and messages, people from everywhere listening and wanting to chime in and seeing what's going on. So one of the things that bothers me, Tanesha, and I wanted to get your opinion of it, is that a lot of times we get pacified and then that puts us back into complacency. Like, for instance, we'll see a street or a building named after a black person and then everybody quiets down like, oh, look at the great memorial that we just had. And so I just worry that something is going to pacify us to where we, fall asleep. And so I just wanted your opinion on that as far as next. I know you mentioned like some next steps, but Charlottesville that you grew up in and the promise that we still have, because apparently there's been progress, but we're still not where we need to be. So those next steps as far as those key changes in our city council, is it who we elect? Is it just getting all new people in? Is it more community? Like, what are you thinking right now as far as our strongest next steps that we need to make?
I think our strongest next steps is definitely who we put in office. And I think we've been driven to believe that Democrat and Republican is our only option. And we sometimes forget about the independent people that really believe in our natural rights. We've been forced to think one way or the other because we're so used to being persuaded. Like, we're easily persuaded. We always believe that Democrats is for the black people. But if you go back in history, the Democrats was not for the people of color. The Republicans were. The Republicans were the ones that didn't want slavery. So somewhere along the line, things get twisted and turned around. And as I stated earlier, education is key, because if we're educated, we can't become complacent. If we're continuously learning, there's no room for complacency. So we have to continue to work. We have to continue to keep going. Being complacent in this day and age, to me, is just completely unacceptable. Because when you look back on Jim Crow, some has changed, but not much has changed. It's more hidden. It's more swept under the rug. But we still deal with stuff every day. A lot of people are afraid to be me because they're afraid of losing their job. They're afraid of going to work and then being fired. They're afraid to speak out. But I'm not afraid of lose. If you're going to fire me for speaking the truth, then that's the wrong company for me to work for anyway. It ain't meant for me to be there. If you're going to look at me sideways for pointing out an issue, that's the wrong place for me to be anyway. And that in itself is mainly the problem, is that we say we live in a righteous life or in a righteous world or in a righteous land, and everybody claims to be, so religious and they want to live, they claim to live the right way, but do we really live right is right and wrong is wrong? Yeah. Or do we bend right is right and wrong is wrong when it affects those closest to us?
I'm trying to figure out how we harness that energy, that, to come out and show that, we can come out and have a great time and make statements.
So
what is it going to take?
I mean, again, I think a lot of people are I think they're numb to what's been happening to Black people. And that's why they don't come out. They numb to it. Like these young boys that may have felonies already, they feel like they don't have a voice.
Right.
Do they feel like they're supported by the Black community? Is that?
I think they feel supported by the Black community, but I don't think they feel supported by our local government. So see, and here in this country, you go to jail, you do your time, you come home, and you're still treated as a criminal. When the process should be, you go to jail, you do your time, and you start over. But we know that's not how it works. So they feel supported by the Black community. You got people in the Black community, Eddie Harris, Herb Dickerson. You got people pushing these young men to go get jobs and do the right thing. But then you have a whole system built completely against you. So where you going to work? It's a select few of jobs in Charlottesville you can work with a felony.
Right.
So I think being being numb to what's happened and just being ignorant to understanding how the government works. Because, see, a felony don't stop you from coming to a meeting and telling them what needs to be changed. You can have 20 felonies and come down there and say what needs to be changed. We just got to want to be vocal. But again, as I stated earlier, I think too many of us, because it's been passed down, we're afraid of losing stuff. And then I think success means something different to all of us. Some of us think money is success. Some of us think things are success. But in some people, sometimes success is just getting your point across. You know what I mean? Just getting your point across, or advocating for something that you want to work for to make sure that it's okay for the people behind you. And like, I got kids. I don't do it just for my kids. I do it for y'all kids and the kids behind those kids and the kids behind those kids. You got to want to do it for something bigger in order to really get out here and sacrifice yourself.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to Miss Tanesha Hudson. And Tanesha, before we let you go, just want to give the floor to you for any closing comments. Any activities, events, groups that you're involved in right now, leading up into election season, or things of that sort that you want to let the community know about? Please do.
Well, Nakia Walker is an independent candidate running for city council. I encourage anybody with time, if you can canvass, phone bank, tell a person next to you about what Nakia stands for. She's been in every meeting. She's been a strong advocate in this fight for racial equality for quite some time. She's worked in a lot of different departments involved with the city to help her. We need people like Nakia. We need people that will bend but not break. We need people that will go in there and won't sell themselves for change. We need people that's on the same economic level as us. We need more Wes's and Nakaya, because the people that get in there with money, they not looking out for us. And I think that's part of the reason why we out here losing too.
And it's difficult for them to relate to us.
Exactly. They can't relate to us, but we have people that's running that actually do relate to us. And I don't want to make this a black thing, because this is by far not just a black thing, because we have low income white people as well. And those same people that's sitting in the same position as a lot of the black people out here in Charlottesville, you know, they got to be an advocate for the change too, because we the only ones losing. If we on the bottom of the totem pole, we're losing. Mm-hmm. You know, we're losing. And the only way to win is we got to get the people in there that's going to help us win. We got to get the people in there that's going to listen to us. And no, she won't get every bill passed. Let's understand that right now. Mm-hmm. Everything she presents won't get passed. She still got other people that got to vote with her. But if we can get 3 of those people that's just like her and just like Wes, that believe and advocating for the poor, then I think we'll see the change we've been fighting for.
Awesome. Well, Tanesha, keep doing what you do. We highly appreciate it for the city of Charlottesville. Keep being that voice. And please stay in touch with us anytime. You know, 101 Jams is a place that you can come and let the community know what's on your mind.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate coming and talking to y'all. Thanks again.
Appreciate it. 101 Jams, IMHO. That was our conversation with Miss Tanesha Hudson. Always love her insight and what she does in the community. And y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.